Hey, 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 and welcome to day three of Metaverse Fashion Week 2025. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you again, streaming in world, in Decentraland, and across the Decentraland socials. So, whether you're watching us in LinkedIn, YouTube, X, or in world with us right now in Decentraland, welcome wherever you are. We're about to dive into a fascinating panel. One of my favorites to put together about the future of digital streetwear. With me, I have four expert guests. One is just about to join us, who are going to talk about their experience, their connection with the space, the amazing things that they've all been creating. And we're going to be talking about a couple of the drops that have been some of the community favorites in Decentraland Metaverse Fashion Week so far as well. So if you are in World, welcome. If you haven't yet jumped in, you have only got 2 days left of the festival. So it's a good time as ever to go to mvfw.org for the full program, to hit that jump in button, get the Decentraland software, and join us in world in Decentraland, a social virtual world. So we're going to dive into the panel. I've got four amazing guests who I am going to let introduce themselves because, wow, what experience we have to talk about. Daniel, would you be able to introduce yourself first and talk about your connection to this topic, digital streetwear?
Yes, it's a pleasure to introduce myself. My name is Daniel Fays. I'm a curator of new digital aesthetics. My first journey of digital self-discovery started here in the Decentraland as well, 2 years and a half ago, back when we do the first Metaverse Fashion Week with Ouroboros, and we did a performance with Grimes. After that, also at the same event, I had the chance to meet with Gloria Maria in the digital space. And 2 years and a half ago, we launched Red Eye. We are a magazine native to the metaverse. We launched in the metaverse 2 years and a half ago with our community, and of course across the socials and online on our website. My personal journey actually of as digital streetwear is influenced by music, by musicians and artists. And in the digital space, I had the chance also to play around with different skins in Decentraland and other brands that are also playing between NFTs and augmented reality, like Face Me. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey so far, and I'm happy to be here and also, sharing more maybe about our journey with Red Eye and what's next for the future of NFTs and virtual runways, which is a very exciting topic for us.
I'm so excited to have you here. And if
Yeah.
anyone wants to see the work that you're doing, because I know that you're covering Fashion Week right now, you're posting about it, where would they head?
You have to add to Instagram mainly, red.i.word, then same as our website, www.redeye.word. On our website, you will find more in-depth content with interviews and insights, especially from Metaverse Fashion Week. We've been reviewing all the activation happenings, and we will also be reviewing more. And we have also something special coming out to date here, always in the Metaverse Fashion Week Plaza.
Alpha. Okay, we're going to look forward. And also, as a plug, you mentioned Face.me that are doing the amazing
Yes.
work with AR mirrors. They are talking on the panel after this one. So, in 2 hours' time, the founder of FaceMe will be joining me live to talk about their company as well. Jess, can I bring you in? I'm so excited to have you at Fashion Week. Are you on mute, Jess?
Oh,
There we go. Yeah,
hello.
you're ready.
Got
Yeah,
it.
I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I'm so excited to be here. I think this is such an awesome opportunity for creators to, express what it is like to be within the digital space, as well as like obviously kind of merging that digital and physical fashion together. I think that's kind of the area of kind of the pocket of fashion that I'm within. I guess is that mergence between physical items and digital items, and how you can essentially create or market whatever you want within the digital space, and it kind of portray it in a way that makes it look physical, and then you have that kind of way of marketing clothing in this kind of era where it doesn't really matter if your item is digital or physical, as long as there's an audience that are kind of supporting designs, and you can then leverage that and turn that into products if there's kind of like a kind of an audience towards a certain product. And I think for me, over the last couple of years, I've been really kind of playing around and experimenting with how I can market things within the digital space and within Blender, especially as a way of essentially turning designs or ideas into a tangible, something that feels tangible, feels like it could be physical. And then if there's obviously people behind that want to support that, want that clothing to become real, then you can obviously use those digital items and as your way of marketing, and then kind of reach out to manufacturers and turn them into a real item. So I think it's been really fun the last couple of years to be experimenting with Figuregot as this like a very experimental brand on how you can bring digital things into the physical form and vice versa. So it's been pretty much a very big kind of gap between design, animation, Blender, experimenting with how a brand can be brought into this world in 2025, and especially new brands that are like worried about not having enough income or not having funding. I think it's cool to be able to show people through Blender or through other 3D platforms how you can essentially create whatever fashion you want in a free space, and be able to design freely without needing money to start up to create things. I think creating is at a point, especially in the digital world, where you basically have free reign of whatever you want to design. I think a lot of times materials or like funding hold a lot of people back. So I think that's kind of where Figuregot has been in the last couple of years. Very experimental, very trying to work in that pocket of what's real and what's fake, and whether that matters, essentially.
I should say, for anyone that's not come across your work before, that your work is unreal. Like the create, like, it's incredible the amount of work that you do that just seems like reality, and then you show your behind the scenes footage and it's all constructed in Blender. Can you tell me what we're seeing? Yeah, I'm a massive fan. Can you tell us what we're seeing here, both on you and also on the avatar and world right now?
Sorry, you broke up a little bit then.
Oh, can you tell me what we're seeing right now on you and also in the avatar in world?
Yeah, so this was the Figuregot Stampede sweater was a design that was, I think, first brought out back in like 2022. And at the time, it was very much, a digital only design where I was experimenting with, what a knitwear sweater would look like in the NFT space. I think at that time, it was, and there was a lot of merch that was coming out within this space that I thought was just very kind of, same white shirt with a logo. And I kind of, it felt like obviously maybe people wanted that at the time, but I kind of didn't like that whole, first drop being something really boring or something that's kind of been done plenty of times before. So I essentially was with my team at the time, and we were experimenting with what the first launch of a physical item could be. And I think that's the thing that I like is the fact that Blender didn't hold me back to design whatever I wanted. I was able to kind of propose a concept beforehand to the people that we were working with, and essentially give them kind of this kind of guide on how, or even to our manufacturers, on a guide on how this jumper or this item, if it were to be made, would look like. So I'd create some hyper-realistic kind of renderings of a jumper that I went through various designs with in Blender, and essentially didn't use any limitations on how I wanted it to design, and then work backwards from that. So I think that's the cool thing about being able to create freely and to create things without having kind of a limit of colors or whatever, is you can be as experimental as you want to begin with, and then kind of work backwards, kind of reverse engineer. So this was kind of the outcome of that process, this sweater. which we've now kind of been marketing it for the last like couple months on my Instagram and also over on Twitter. And yeah, it's been really cool to be able to bring a digital, what was a digital render and was very much in that conceptual world of a knit sweater, which has kind of embroidery at the back and all the elements that seemed complicated so long ago, and be able to actually bring that to life and realize that, you know, with the right marketing and with people that are supporting a design, you can kind of leverage an audience through your digital fashion and turn it into physical fashion when you realize there's a demand for it. And I think, yeah, that's been such a cool process, both on the creative side, but also as like a business side, to be able to market that way round rather than, you know, create the item first and then market it. I think it's been an interesting way of seeing whether there's a demand for an item before you ever make it, which I think also allows for a lot less risk for businesses.
Super, super cool. We're going to be diving into this and the culture of this even more in this conversation. This is one of the drops that's gone viral in terms of Metaverse Fashion Week this year. Another one is by Marco and his team. Marco, would you like to introduce yourself and talk about this connection that you have right now to digital fashion?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here. Actually, it's good to be back in Decentraland. I'm the CEO of founder of another one. We create digital physical wearables. So essentially, pretty much what was explained before, we go either one way, creating the digital version and see the traction, and then create the physical one. Sometimes we have to do the prototyping, as in the case of the collaboration with Templa. We are now on the booth on the screen, and the booth that we created here, it was actually conceived in 2022, and because it's a very complex product, and when you make shoes or shoewear, you don't have to think only about the design, but also the wearability, the walkability, many different, and as you see, it's a very complex product. So what we do at another one, we actually started as a fashion tech platforms for bringing to life wearables that were kind of difficult for artists to create. One of our first experiments was Encher Wameda, one of the first digital sneaker. We had the sneaker made by Lucio Vanotti, that is an Italian emerging artist. And actually, he never had the chance to make a shoewear, because making a shoewear is kind of complex. You also have to secure the minimum quantity for production, even for the factory, to help you to create the prototype. So we had the chance to make it happen. We involved 30 communities, and we created 33 colorways of these sneakers. And believe me, the shoe factory wasn't happy about the number of variation that we created. And actually was one of the first Lincoln wearable in Decentraland, because we worked together with Swappable, the partner at that time. There was one of your partner. They had their environment inside of Decentraland, and I remember it was the Metaverse Fashion Week in 2022. We were one of the first having the physical product and connected NFT that allow you to get the digital wearable on Decentraland. So this is how we started the journey into digital fashion. We collaborate also with other brands, and actually Red Eye, we did a collaboration also with Red Eye 2 years ago, because we had a collection made with Casadei, that is a luxury fashion brand in Italy. And for that item, we created an avatar, Naomi, that was then became our digital influencer. And I remember we did a collaboration with Red Eye actually for the Naomi experience. I think it was during the Salone del Mobile in Milan, I guess, where we had the avatar going around. And this experience was brought into Decentraland in September 2023, where we did the fashion show in Milan with Casadei brand, and we had an experience at the same time in Decentraland. At that time, we also managed to create a virtual experience with the Oculus that wasn't compatible with Decentraland, but we made it work just to have a little bit more immersive experience. So we have, let's say, we had tried many types of collaboration with brands, with our own brands. What is another one today? We are an enabler. We mostly create digital and phygital strategy for brands, and what we do is not only creating a product that is an iconic product and help them to streamline their creativity, but also we help them to create experience both offline and online, and we do that through connecting the digital wearable with a physical product that is an NFC, a chip, a smart chip that is embedded in our wearables, and then allow for us to create talking together experience both online and offline. And I guess that's our experience in the digital world.
Super interesting. I love how much history you have already with Decentraland. I think I remember the installation. Was it within a square with the models working? Yeah, it's a fantastic installation in 2023. Yes, Román, can I bring you in to introduce yourself and kind of your two hats that you wear right now?
Hi, hello everyone. Yeah, I mean, it's Román. I'm the founder of MURPH, which is a consulting agency based in Madrid, and we work worldwide with fashion and luxury houses all around the globe. We develop strategies regarding, I don't know, like any kind of digital activation, but also physical developments from, I don't know, like since events for Gucci or consultant for huge multinational brands, or some other more niche or an emerging brands. We always wanted to bring like a more actually we're feeling like kind of figuring out how we explain to other fashion houses that this digital environment is not just guys in pajamas. So how we actually help to actually get this environment to be a more sustainable in a way that it turns to be a business, and that well, this is part of our journey through all this digital community and this collective conversation. So yeah, I mean, we have an art department team where we develop from garments. We develop collections that can be either wear as a skin, but also with dress X and with some other platforms. We create virtual environments. We've done for Benetton. We've done for some other even perfume brands that they're always so linked to the fashion environment. And yeah, I mean, we're a almost 40 people team in Madrid working internationally, developing strategies for like any kind of channel and any kind of like finding the way to actually blend the culture and fashion in a way that makes sense in a more digital environment. I don't know.
It's super interesting. And also, we've got a bit of an Easter egg from something that you're connected to within Decentraland as well. Like, we have a jacket. Would you like to tell everyone in world what the jacket is and how it's connected to MURPH?
Yeah, I mean, part of the companies in this whole portfolio of companies that we have, it's a media outlet that it's one of the most relevant media outlets in streetwear in Spanish. So that it's based in between Madrid, Valencia, but it's actually running internationally, also South and Central America. And we have a jacket that is actually inspired by the regular puffers that you can find from Pedro Gomez, which is a really a aspirational collaboration that we found. And that it has always been like a classical garment for a streetwear brand. So we think that it was the I mean, you cannot define a streetwear without using a puffer jacket, no? So it's actually kind of like inside of the concept itself. So we brought this jacket as a part of a representation for how we prepare to just not always like wearing, and even though it's in a virtual environment, you can always be classy as well, no? So it's how we wanted it to bring it as well here.
I love that, bringing some classiness to Decentraland. And it's an Easter egg. So 25 gramos MURPH doesn't have a showroom, but if you wander around the grounds, there is a special dispenser in which you can claim the 25 gramos, the 25 gramos puffer jacket. I think Dana was just showing some of the audience members are wearing it right now. So thank you so much for working with us on that special drop. So it's super cool that 3 of you have drops in Decentraland right now as part of Metaverse Fashion Week. There are 22 to claim. Oh, 26 actually officially if we include the quests daily as well. So if you are listening right now and you're thinking you want to start joining us in virtual worlds, it is a great time to jump in. But the conversation that we are about to have is all about streetwear. This came out of the fact that when I was creating, I'm the producer of Metaverse Fashion Week with the theme Infinite Identities this year. One of the big feedback that I had when I was researching the show was that the streetwear brands were the most interested in becoming part of this. We have an amazing runway after this presentation by an emerging, incredibly exciting Ghanaian streetwear brand called Free the Youth. They were really amazing to work with in terms of their vision for virtual worlds and NFTs. And so we have this history of streetwear brands being first movers into tech, people like Artifact, obviously, in the hype of NFTs. And so I kind of wanted to open it up to you all and say, why is that? Why do we see streetwear being these first movers in terms of adopting tech and innovating in different environments?
May I be the first one, or yeah?
Absolutely, jump in.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, what we consider, I mean, for example, now that when we talk about streetwear, it actually makes such a difference from what it was considered like early 90s, no? So now that streetwear, it's much more blend as well with luxury. It's much more blend with like more mainstream culture. But if we remain with the concept itself, it's something that actually wanted to bring differentiation and wanted to bring like something unique when you were either marginalized or that you were not actually fitting in the spotlight. So it makes total sense that once there is like any way to actually find better and different opportunities to express yourself, that you jump into, okay, let's try to do something new, whatever it is, no? So now that we're living this second renaissance, no? Like after we lived it in like in 14th and 15th century, now that we actually live in a more idea, and I mean the world of the ideas, the world where fantasy actually makes much more sense. And after everything that we went through the last 2 centuries, so it makes total sense that we were looking for this fantasy. We were looking for ways to express ourselves, and like not considering physics seems like the perfect opportunity actually to bring and to create new ways of expressing streetwear. So I think it's this feeling of belonging that the streetwear and more street style based fashion trends or culture actually it's aiming for since the very beginning. It's actually really inside of the core.
So that kind of communities that were felt themselves outside of mainstream, cementing that feeling of belonging and being much more open to moving into different spaces.
Exactly. It's like
Marco.
breaking the status quo.
Marco, I see you nodding.
Oh, no. I totally agree. I think there is also convergence of, let's say, because of the maturity also of the gaming industry, the convergence of the streetwear, let's say, user and adopters, and the gamers. And then once when it comes to like translating the an outfit that could be a skin, there is definitely an interest of that audience that also will have a streetwear outfit usually as their normal outfit. And that's why you mentioned Artifact, and it was like I would say it was a natural event that Nike was interested in Artifact, because they started in expressing themselves, especially on a streetwear and they got attention because the audience was also interested in the kind of let's say expression. I do believe that streetwear is also very much related to communities, especially when you have those brands that can bring some values. And I remember I read this manifesto from Heist Abiding in 2020. I think it was 2020 or 2021, about how the new generation is kind of expressing themselves by the way they wear clothes, and is kind of being in a private club or private group, as I remember there was the case in the high school or even like college, where you belong to someone and then you all wear the same clothes, etc. And this is how what brought also, I think, NFTs. Maybe we will be diving into this later. But then NFTs, it was like a natural evolution of these trends of community streetwear, and this is where I think the streetwear industry, it was the first one entering the digital fashion.
So for you, that community was just this massive driver, that they saw community being so important to streetwear, that kind of lended itself really intuitively into NFTs being this community driver as well.
Yeah.
Jess, how about you? I mean, your community is so active and so engaged. For you, are you seeing that connection too?
Yeah, I think for me, within the reason streetwear has been such like an early adopter for this kind of technology is, like, I think, you know, fashion designers and fashion houses are always at that limit of experimentation. And I think in any industry where there's such a high amount of experimentation and such a high amount of output and trying to get ahead of trends and think ahead before an audience or before something happens, that's where obviously new tech and kind of any new idea comes more into play. So I think, yeah, fashion houses and fashion streetwear have always been at that part where they're trying to predict the future. You know, designers are trying to get ahead of what's going to be the next viral item, what's the culture, or what kind of brands our kids or yeah, young people, or even old people, whatever, are interested in. And I think in any industry where there's a super high amount of experimentation happening, there's you know, a lot of research going into what culturally is relevant in nowadays or whatever, is always going to have some, you know, very experimental, very conceptual ideas brought to life. You see that already within like the runways of certain designers. I mean, I think famously, like Balenciaga and designers like that are known for going viral every couple of years for their, you know, very extreme or very conceptual pieces. And I think, you know, they become viral for those reasons, because they've you know, they're looking for new ways to bring attention. And I think, you know, the streetwear space is all about attention. You know, what's the next thing that people are going to gravitate towards? And technology is kind of at that exact area right now where there's a lot of experimentation happening. Tech is such a big place in everybody's lives, even in terms of marketing for clothing. For example, TikTok and Instagram being such a pinnacle place for clothing and for things to go viral. So I think it almost feels like very natural that the two are worked alongside each other, because without technology, they don't, you know, these streetwear brands don't have a platform to market their items to, or for their items to go as viral as they probably would have liked to back in the day when advertisements or billboards was their main way of bringing attention to their new drop. I think nowadays it's such an important area to be within, technology. And yeah, I think without it, you know, there's a lot of streetwear brands that are struggling right now. I'd say especially the bigger brands are actually struggling to compete against, you know, a lot of smaller creators that are documenting their process on how they're building these maybe one-of-one pieces and selling out collections probably at faster rates sometimes than a lot of bigger brands, because yeah, we're in an era right now of adjusting how marketing is made in this space in 2025. And I think the way of, you know, spending big amount of money on just an advertisement campaign isn't the route anymore. I think we're in an era of, obviously extreme experimentation, but also people wanting almost origin stories or a story behind items or a reason to want to purchase something. And yeah, tech allows that in terms of getting the information out there, in terms of that extreme experimentation of jumping on new things that seem interesting or could be the next viral item. And yeah, I think to me, it makes sense why they both are so intertwined with each other.
It's super interesting. So for you, it's that community, but also that platform of people reaching new audiences through that tech and being seen as being these innovators that are doing something different in the space.
Yeah, exactly.
Daniel.
I like the way that you just said that it's actually about like also creating like more layers to the purchase process as well, and to like deep dive through the whole thing instead of just like being so impulsive, and which I think is definitely something that really characterizes the streetwear. I mean, a more conscious purchase process and more investigation to the garment itself, and technology is definitely the way to make this possible. Sure.
Daniel, is that what you're seeing your side as well?
Yes, I mean, what I would love to say is, depending on the distinction we are doing on streetwear, because there are different layers, and it's really synthetic, if I have to say. When we talk about, you know, the big dogs in the space, that so far with Red Eye, you know, we have collaborated as well, and we got to know more on what they're looking for and why they're looking towards more new technologies. We see it, you know, in a way that the big dogs are always trying to compete anyway one another and always come up with something new every day to engage with the consumer, to come closer to the consumers, and also to bring that kind of authenticity that perhaps the internal team at the fashion houses and the brands doesn't have, but AI artists and digital artists might bring new perspective. So at the same time, we see that other side where, you know, designers are struggling, and designers sometimes ideas are being stolen from, you know, concept and smaller designers that, you know, are struggling to freelance, you know, and continue to do their work. So I believe, you know, this always kind of bring us to this conversation of whether, you know, digital fashion designers or AI designers should be the new creative directors and art directors of these fashion houses, you know, and kind of bring a new, way of discussing who a creative director is, and maybe also the team. Now we are excited to see, you know, what the space is gonna bring with big brands like, Balenciaga, as just mentioned, or Gucci with the new appointment of them now. Since we're also one of the first luxury brand to launch, NFTs at the beginning, more as a reward, I would say, than as an asset. So I think, as of these fashion houses and big brands, streetwear brands are, leading the way, paving the way for new technologies. Also, the consumer will, upgrade themselves to the next generation. I think also what's really important with technology, it's not just on the digital side of things, but also how this streetwear brands, let's say mostly in accessories, have been using new technologies to create with 3D printing, or have been working, having that interconnection between digital design and physical design using sustainable materials. So I think that is interesting in where we can bring a change in the way things are manufactured, in the way things are communicated, and that change will be brought to from the consumer. I don't also think I see also the difference between Gen Alpha and Gen Z and these generations. I really find, the nieces of my partner, they're like 5 years old, 7 years old, and all they care, is about their skins and their avatars and how to dress it up in different layers, because they kind of always looking to stand out from each other. So that's kind of a new way of street style. It's where streetwear and street style is going as well. And maybe the fashion houses is where they're going to, where maybe they should also tap into more, since there are platforms that have billions, not billions but millions of users daily that have avatars and change their skins, and there is a potential consumer there. But since we are still sticking to the traditionality of the ethos of these fashion houses, the change is been a bit slow. But yeah, I just leave it to the floor. Actually, I don't know if Bay, you want to ask any questions, or maybe you would just leave it to the other panelists.
I guess my follow-up for all of this would be, who is it right now that you're seeing translating? We've all we've been hearing about community, platform, storytelling, authenticity. Who for you right now is doing this well in the space? Can we give any examples of people? I know that a lot of fashion students will be watching this thinking, who is it right now that is getting this right?
So we in the streetwear, I would say, based on my experience in collaboration, Nike did a good, is doing well by bridging both the digital, the online and offline communities. For instance, they were also one of the first streetwear brand to use AIs in their campaigns. And we also did a collaboration with them and AI artists to promote the new Air Max. And at the same time, they do physical takeovers, basically in all major cities. And I think last week was when we were invited to this event in Milan, that at the same time was showcasing the new products, but also the new artists, the new digital renders around around the product. So I think Nike is one to look at. Then if we are just saying in terms of image, of brand image, I think also Vivienne Westwood, by being always sticks to themselves. They have been doing a lot of 3D and animations to promote their items, which are not only hyper realistic but also super appealing, and kind of sticking to the ethos or to the visual image of the brand and the visual narrative. So to give you two different examples, because for us in London, Vivian is also still part of the streetwear that we do. So it's kind of both sides of the coin, if that makes sense. Yeah.
It does. And I saw Roman nodding about Vivian.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely Vivian Westwood makes so much sense for me as well. And Nike, even Adidas, trying. I think mostly footwear brands that they're facing such a strong crisis on how differentiate between each other's. How, I mean, more or less we're pretty used about all the using the same silhouettes, just collaboration doesn't make that sense anymore. Like better like a more like a three-way party collaboration. But otherwise, I think definitely. I mean, I know that there are a lot of like Korean brands as well trying to do several stuff that it's also. I mean, that we, at least that we feel related to. I know Editorial, for example, what they do at their stores, they're also like trying to bring something different, and how they blend even a Gentle Monster, maybe, I don't know, like even tamarins. But now it makes, I mean, fashion, it's so dilute. I mean, it's now it's great how we talk about like culture brands in a way that that is not only about the garment itself anymore. So it's more about this whole artistic environment. No, so other like Gentle Monster, even Margiela, even I don't know, tamarins. It's I think we have a lot of examples. In Korea, for example, it's still been more. In Europe, we don't see that much, or at least that's my feeling, and that's part of our like part of our goal here. It's actually how we implement this that makes sense, and that we help the decision makers actually to believe that this is more real than what it was before. But yeah, like mostly footwear brands. I think it's sneaker brands like Adidas, Nike for sure. Those are the ones trying.
Jess, I would love to bring you in here because I feel like you have a really different perspective. You come from digital native world. Like, who for you is getting this right now?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to my head when you ask like who are the ones that are really getting the attention within this space. In my opinion, the brands that come to my head aren't like the big names. I think at this kind of era of like algorithm based creators that are coming to your For You page and having such a big influence on TikTok and Instagram, the algorithm is bringing new creators to the front line at the moment. I think it's causing this kind of space where bigger brands are now getting worried by these smaller creators that are building like a community around their designs or brands on Instagram just by building an audience kind of reverse the way that you normally would build a brand. And so the ones that come to my head straight away are like Honey by Mona Thomas, that created that really viral like hoodie a couple years ago. And I mean, she's been really great at kind of experimenting and using 3D printers and designing one-of-one pieces for like Lil Nas X and various kind of celebrities in that space. And I think it's cool because she shows the entire process on how she's been building her brand from scratch. And I obviously come from a similar situation of putting my work out there in terms of exposing the behind the scenes on how something is created. And I think audiences nowadays are wanting that attachment between why they're buying an item. And so it's become harder for a lot of the bigger kind of players in this space to find those really feel centered origin stories or feel as though they have a community attachment. I think these smaller brands are getting really powerful because they're centered around this origin story, and they're expanding out that way, and they're showing people behind the scenes on how you can do this at home, or how they've been able to start a brand from basically nothing, and they're building this really strong audience of people that are supporting not only the brand, but I think people are looking towards personal brands to support, personal stories. They're looking for the actual humans or the creative directors to almost be the leverage for why they want to purchase that item, not so much the brand anymore. And so there's other examples like, I think, your local Off God, which was this kid, 17-year-old, who started off very much as like an album designer for various rappers, and he's now kind of going into streetwear, and he was the one who designed the Apple headphones, the 3D printed attachments that you could add to the Apple headphones, and that was like a super viral product a couple years ago. And I think he and Mona Thomas and Vandy the Pink, who just recently had a collaboration with Pokemon, are all these kind of individuals that are starting to build such an incredibly strong community behind them purely because of them and their ideas. And I think in this space, obviously, I think that's why a lot of the bigger players are now worrying or like trying to find pockets of ways that they can build, you know, connections with their community, either through memes or through other ways in the algorithm. But I think, yeah, the stronger players that come to my head are the really original or kind of origin based creators that people are finding almost like a fondness towards, and they want to follow their story rather than just the brand. I think we're definitely moving into a space where, you know, personal branding is such a huge factor in why something is successful. I mean, we see that in politics, we see that through various mediums of how powerful a personal brand is. I think even, for example, Zuckerberg, that's kind of, even though it's not really related to fashion, but I think it's interesting to see how, you know, Mark has been able to change the public perception of him in a way through personal branding and the way he portrays himself nowadays to a younger audience, comparative to how he was maybe 10 years ago. And I think it does show the power of personal branding and the power behind creators themselves rather than just the brand. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that, I guess.
Super fascinating. I think, Marco, I would love to bring you in here because you come from like a different space to this as well. You're advising these clients, like the bigger brands. Okay, how do you access this? How do you work with the tech? Like, who for you are the examples that you put in front of your clients to say these are people that are getting it right now?
I think a couple of years ago, maybe I would bring the example of G-Money with the brand 90cc, because it was purely coming from the NFT, the DGen and the NFT world, where this brand came up from someone that just bought a CryptoPunk, had his reputation in Web3, and then understood that there was a niche that wasn't covered by any brands, and then he created his own luxury brand and fashion brand. I would say lifestyle. So we put it into also the streetwear the streetwear bandwidth. And I think that was like an example where the self-expression that was mentioned before, it was important into captivating the audience, especially in Web3. Now, talking with big brands, of course, the first example that you can give is Nike and Artifact. That you can talk about the collaboration with Adidas and Borrego Club for the jumper suits, the track suits, the yellow one. That was like pretty much a success. But the main thing is to let them understand that there is the storytelling behind, where you include the audience and your consumer into the product story, the manufacturing of the product, the conception of the product. So what we do is also embedding into the wearables this chip that allow you to see what's behind, what was the general idea, an exclusive content that is a touch point that you have with the consumer that helps you to create a better bond. So what we say romantically, we create an unbreakable bond between consumer and brands, because you allow them to have more experience and also a deeper connection with the user. This is, of course, nowadays it can be translated into virtual experience. There are many, for example, football clubs that I know now going from streetwear to a little bit more on merchandising. But it's important example because it's about the fan base. So customer, they have to turn themselves into fun, into community for the brands. The paradigm of the brand and the consumer is not working anymore, because if I want to feel belonging to something, not just someone that pays for products. I want to be part of a family. So this is, I think, what the innovation of NFT that brought into especially the communities, because I'm a Borrego Club, I'm a Pudgy Penguin, I'm a crypto punk. I recognize myself as a part of a group. I wouldn't say cult. Maybe in 2021, 2022, well, probably could have been referred as a cult. Now it's more like a cultural trend, and this is what we have to educate the brands, and the brands themselves. They have to educate their consumer that they become brand ambassador themselves, brand advocates of the company, because they are the one that express the let's say this belonging to a community. Now back to your question, it depends on the type of clients that we have. Some of them, they're pretty much aware and they're open to experiment. Other, we have to provide them example and let them understand the possibility that you have in also experimenting and let's say catch up to what's happening currently in the streetwear, in the fashion world. But I have to say that it's much more easy than probably 3 years, 4 years ago when we first started, because it's becoming mainstream. Thanks also to a lot of big brands that are experimenting, and also I would say, even if it's within the competition on our side, but Aura Chain is our consortium is doing a great job to bring in a lot of big brands, especially for the digital passport, the European regulation for traceability and sustainability. That is a big asset for us, because it creates that connection between the physical and the digital. And then it's a natural evolution, saying, okay, now you have this chip, you have this QR code, you can connect a digital wearable. Why don't you create an experience in the Decentraland or in some other platforms? So I think the time is like mature enough now to approach brands and having more experiments.
Now, I'm very glad that you talked about the elephant in the room, which is NFTs. After the last 2 years of the bear and the kind of narrative changing around NFTs completely. I mean, if anyone's new to Decentraland, you'll see that everything within World, that the avatars are wearing, the emotes, how we're moving, the clothes, these are all NFTs on the Ethereum blockchain, Polygon NFTs. So I would love, but just to kind of forward that as well, with the proviso that Dana is visually showing me right now that we only have 7 minutes left until the Free the Youth debut of their digital designs on the catwalk. I believe the aim for Free the Youth in Ghana is to release these as NFTs after Metaverse Fashion Week. These were created from their latest collection. So if we're talking about NFTs, I guess the question is, where is this going right now? Because we had such a change in the last 2 years about perception, about use. We talk about artifacts, and obviously that is no longer with us as a concern. So I would say, like, 1.5 minutes each, your summary of how you see this changing now in this interplay between Web3 and fashion. And I wonder, Román, could I start with you?
I mean, I wouldn't be here if I knew the answer. But I think it definitely, I mean, now that Marco was saying also the digital product passport, and also, I mean, if we relate it to fashion and with a more functional way to use it, definitely that would be, I mean, it's turning to be something that is going to be relevant in terms of circular design, in terms of traceability, in terms of sustainability as well. So everything and this technology, that it's definitely changing the way that we understand like our supply chain, that we understand like the providing value to the creators, and all the community is actually creating the new conception of fashion, as Jess was saying as well. I think it is important actually to understand it as a tool that instead of just like luxury that it was considered a couple of years ago. So I think like considering it as this tool, as this relevant instrument to create value in and also provide and regarding creators and the people behind all this with all the legislation, the smart contracts, and all this development behind this. Now that we are facing the new agenda 2030, that it's going to be huge and it's going to be really, really important in order to define the end of life of a garment and all the ownership and all this new requirements that we're going to be facing, and that we're facing already, but it's going to be I mean, we will never I mean, we come from such a strong industry that we consider that we could do everything without like watching our backs. So now it's like NFTs from one side are gonna find like a way to stand up as a tool, but also as a technology to help creators to keep building this culture and building this.
Jess, can I bring you in? Your perception of NFTs right now, where you see this going?
Yeah, I think my take on this topic is less so much, directed at NFTs. I think, NFTs was an outlet for digital fashion. I think I and all brands move in this flow of what is the next outlet of digital fashion. And I think to hone too niche into whether NFTs will be specifically will NFTs be around for fashion is hard, obviously, to guess, because with the rate at which technology is moving, I think you just have to, as a designer, be adaptable for whatever is coming next. And I think obviously AI is such a huge thing at the moment that in the digital world, that almost feels like the NFT of 2025 is AI within fashion. So yeah, it's always going to be hard to tell, but I think that's the cool thing about being within a space that's highly experimental and highly at the edge of like technology is it's very unpredictable, and as a result you have to be like really flexible, and you have to be on guard on whatever whatever's going to be changing the fashion industry in any moment. And I think NFTs was that in 2021, and a lot of people would jump on things that are like at the edge of technology because they want to be the first to do things. But in terms of, not so much in NFTs, but NFTs represents that, fashion mixing with digital technology. And I think that isn't going to go anywhere. No. I think if anything, that's going to be, incredibly heightened in the next three years or whatever. NFT's relevance within the space is all dependent on whether the community or brands are able to utilize it in a way that's actually practical. If not, I mean, NFTs could, not play an important role in the next 5 years. But if it does, and if they do play it well, or if brands integrate it within the gaming space or whatever, I think then you have like an actual kind of thing to rely on as whether it has a future in the next 5 years. So I think it's very dependent on its utility.
That's a great place to stop. Very dependent on utility. Daniel, final closing sentences, 2 to 3, on where you see this going right now.
I think as creators will keep creating and players will keep playing, there is a chance that this might become the biggest side of the industry, or the fashion industry ever. And as soon as the big fashion houses will realize that this is a really good way to maximize their revenue streams, at the same time get an attachment to their audience and consumer, and also track their wearables, whether it's physical or digital, there is a space where this is going to become bigger than what it was in 2021.
Fantastic. Players to keep playing, creators to creating. I think that's a great place to leave this on. This has been fascinating. We are all running over to the main runway now in Metaverse Fashion Week to see the Free the Youth debut on the main runway. It has been an absolute pleasure. Marco, Jess, Román, Daniel, thank you so much. This is a fantastic
Thank you.
conversation. Enjoy
Thank
the
you.
rest of Metaverse Fashion
Thank
Week
you.
2025. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.